Good morning and welcome everyone to our Roxhill Media webinar, where we're going to find out everything we need to know about Elle. And we are extremely lucky to have Farah Storr here with us today, editor-in-chief of Elle. Farah, welcome.
Hello, nice to be here.
Nice to see you. We have an audience of 350 today, which I think is a new record. Emma Salad said good morning. Thank you, Emma. And we will spend about 20 minutes just asking you everything we need to know about Elle, and then we'll look at the questions that will come in over the next 20 minutes. So, Farah, tell us how things have been this year. I assume that it's probably been the toughest year of your career and most of our careers.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I've only been, so I joined Elle about 18 months ago. So I had like about 10 months of everything being normal. And then I've spent as much of my job at home, not really doing anything to do with fashion, not going to any of the shows, not meeting any of my beloved PRs as I have before. So it's been a very weird editorship, I have to say, because it's not been, I always say to my husband, it doesn't feel like it's been the true editorship. It should have been an Elle, but in many ways, for me anyway, it's actually been, I think, a bit better, because when I joined Elle at the beginning, you know, I didn't, my background isn't fashion. I always wanted it to be, but I took a slightly different course. I went into features, been an editor before in women's health and Cosmo. So when I came to Elle, which was this kind of, you know, out of all the magazines I've edited, it's the one that I read, you know, wasn't a Cosmo reader, wasn't a women's health reader. And what comes with that is a certain amount of trepidation. So I kind of took on the role of editor-in-chief of Elle. But you spend the first year of your editorship kind of watching and
Right.
seeing what, you know, in other editorships, I've been a bit gung-ho. I've gone in and probably out of naivety, you go in and you think you have to change everything. But with Elle, it was different, because it was like, I'm older now, you watch and you learn. There were lots of big changes I wanted to make. And I think because of what happened with COVID, we had to make radical changes. And actually a lot of ideas I had wanted to do at the beginning, which I was, you know, fearful perhaps to do, I then, almost as soon as we went into lockdown, was able to do. And I can talk to you at length a little bit later about what those were. So for me, yes, it's been hard. I don't see my team as much. We speak a lot, but I think we have been, actually, Elle in particular has been very creative and quite bold in what we've been able to do, which, to be honest, I think the brand maybe needed.
Brilliant. So in a funny way, it was an opportunity for you.
Yeah, I think so.
That's fab. I'm going to hang on to the little nugget of gold you gave me earlier, saying my beloved PRs. Thank you for recognising us as an industry, because we only too easily get dissed. And we love working with you journalists, and I know you love working with us. Have you missed those coffees with PRs, and how have you managed to keep up with them virtually, as it were?
Yeah, massively, because actually most of those, if you can pin me down and get me out, which doesn't happen that often, but I do try to do it, just because you need to keep in touch with what's going on. I think, Emma, when I first met you, you were like, I bet you get invited to everything. And I was like, well, no, because you're the editor, so nobody gets in touch with you, actually. Yeah, so I try, and I've always tried to kind of keep my nose to the ground. But you're right. So when I used to have those coffees, and, you know, I might only see one PR for one coffee in a year, but that's where all the ideas start. And the ideas might not happen straight away, but they will be percolating with me. So something always comes out of a meeting with a PR for me. To do it virtually has not been the same. And actually, if I'm honest, it's a bit weird on both sides. I mean, there was someone the other day, and we tried to do it virtually, but it's just not the same. It all starts to feel a little less friendly and a little bit more, right, what have you got coming up? What are you doing? And the nature is, as all you guys know, of course you've got to come with a brilliant idea and a brilliant product or service or hotel, but it is a little bit about, do you want to do business with that person? Do they understand? And I always try to be really honest with PRs. I'll always say to people, nah, it's just not right. Don't waste your time. But it's the way in which the PR takes it and goes, okay, fine, I get it. And I think doing it virtually, that's very, very hard to do, particularly with new people trying to get me on a Zoom call at the moment. It's really hard. But before this lockdown, I was going in once a week. I live very far out. I live kind of by the coast. But I was going in once a week, and I'm going to start going in a little bit more. And I'm going to use some of those days to actually CPRs. I can't get them in the building. That's the problem. So it used to be the easiest thing was come in, let's meet for 15 minutes. Now it's going to be very much a case of let's go for coffee somewhere. So everything is going to be harder. But I think with it being harder, when you do have those one-on-one meetings with the editors, they're going to be richer, because it's not like I can keep having coffees with you. That's going to be one coffee maybe for the year.
Point.
And so it's a good opportunity. I'm monologuing you. Sorry, Emma.
No, it's really useful to know. So whilst we are still in lockdown, how can we, say I'm a fashion PR, how can I dazzle you or your team, and who do I contact with good fashion stories, and what makes something an Elle brand and something not an Elle brand? I think I asked about 15 questions then.
That's all right. I can try and answer them. Well, so first of all, what makes it an Elle brand? So Elle, what we're doing for next year is we're going very hard on. It's a strapline I've always had since I joined Elle, which is the now, the new, and the next. It's always been in the magazine, but it was only on our front section. But that is the lifeblood of Elle. It's always been, is it now, is it new, and is it next? So anything which has been featured before, but not even that, anything which feels like it might be the next hot thing, that has a part in Elle. And we're going to push that much more. I mean, the prism which every piece of content, whether it's travel or beauty or fashion, even with my fashion shoots, I'm talking to Avril and going, well, what makes it the next? And what makes it the next is, at the moment, we're talking about doing a fashion shoot, and we're going to do it in a hopefully in a kind of forgotten corner of England where the high street has been decimated. And what that will be is, what makes that the next is, we're kind of saying this is what the world is going to look like. And so that's always been about, yes, it's been about fashion, but it's also about making a comment on culture, what's happening now, but also what's going to happen kind of in the coming years. So that's what Elle is, and that's why we're very different to Harper's in that way.
Sure. I
always say we're about 10 steps ahead, not 20, not 50, but about 10 steps ahead of the cultural zeitgeist. The question was, how can they dazzle me? Well, just keep that in mind. So, for example, I was talking to Lucy, our travel editor, who we share with Harper's, and I was saying, our travel stories, we have to think about what is the world, how are people going to travel? And we were going, I was just saying to her, well, we should probably be in Elle doing the most amazing souped up luxury vans that you can hire, because that's the way, the 1970s road trips around your own country are coming back. Now that, Emma, is not, there's no stats on that, but it's a gut feeling. And gut feelings, of course, are based on pattern. It's because I stalk kind of Instagram, and you start to see that's how the world is traveling at the moment. So a really smart PR would go, this is a trend that we've noticed bubbling, and it is a gut instinct, but we think this is going to be the next big thing. And I'm more interested actually in themes. So for example, there was a PR whose name I've forgotten. If she's on this call, she'll kill me, but she does the travel for Purple. And she had sent me, now I don't usually get travel releases, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not, but some travel PRs I know, some I don't. And she just sent me a press release of, I want to say it's called Hudson Brickyard. I could be wrong, but it's a new kind of wilderness cabin being built in the Hudson Valley in New York. It's not even built yet, actually. I think she sent me the kind of the drawings of it. But what that did was, when we were doing a big piece in our January issue for travel trends, and I wanted, because I edit everything, I was like, look, we're missing something here on kind of ultra wilderness. And I said, there's this thing that I read about which is the wilderness cabins, and they're not even built yet. They're happening in July, I think. And I said, those should be mentioned in Elle. They should be talked about. And I think some PRs might think, because it's not opened yet, there's no point in mentioning that to me. But actually, that then became a starting point for writing a bigger piece on ultra wilderness is the new hot thing for the fashion set. So, but it's more PRs going, there's this bubbling trend. Whether it's the stay-at-home motor trip, the 1970s road trip. It just has to feel very, very new. And I think often PRs know better. They know as well as journalists. They have a gut instinct for what is going to be, how the world is going to be traveling, or they should do in a year, 2 years, 3 years time.
That's so interesting. So we shouldn't get hung up on the fact that we don't have any images yet, or it's not finished yet. We should just plant that seed, because it could be the next thing. And it's, you know, creating trends is not that they haven't been shot yet.
Totally. And I tell you the other thing, actually, Emma, while I have you. So we have I'm focusing on travel here, which is unfair, but I'm sure there's lots of travel PRs. We have openers in Elle. So there's an opener to each of the sections. This is all print, by the way, not digital. And I oversee digital too. But we have openers. And so we have an opener at the moment for our Explore section, which is our travel section. And it's always been a problematic opener, because it has to be one of those dazzlers. So you turn the page and you see an image and you go, oh my God, I want to go there. I want to be there. Or I just want to know about this thing. The problem we've had is images. So often what we've been doing, and we've been talking about this for months and months, often what happens is we'll have a hotel, but we go through literally about 70 images before we find one, because a picture of a hotel, it's just not that interesting unless, for Elle, unless the hotel, you know, I don't know, I'm being facetious here, but unless it has, you know, a roof like a top hat, or unless it's in the wilderness in Tasmania, for Elle, it's got to feel like, oh my God, I can't even believe this. So we're changing it slightly to take the pressure off it just being hotels. So I have said to my team, and if anybody has any ideas, let me know. I said it's in the Explore section. So it could be a street that nobody knows about, and there's an amazing street in, I don't know, in Chile, and it's full of, I'm making this up, it's full of flowers and whatever. As long as there is an amazing image to go with it. There might be a new restaurant, but the inside of the restaurant is so unbelievable. We did a big piece, and believe it or not, this constitutes a travel piece for me. We did about a year ago, I wanted to do something on world's best toilets. I just wanted to do it like luxury loos, because it's where people spend so much time. Somebody has a hotel, don't go, here's the bedrooms. If they've got something totally unique, and they all do now because they all want it for Instagram, send me a picture of the toilets, or send me a picture of, you know, I don't know, the sauna, which has got, I don't know, palm, something like that, quirky and totally unexpected.
Great. That's such a good tip. I think this is brilliant, because I think we've got travel pretty much covered there. What we would like to, let's talk about beauty next, and then we'll go back to fashion, because that's obviously the bulk of the book. Beauty, who do we contact for beauty?
Katie Young. Well, you can contact Jennifer Rosen, you can contact Charlotte Bitmead. They are the kind of, Jen and Charlotte are the core beauty, 100% on Elle. Katie's role, like Avril, straddles both. She's across Harper's, Town and Country, and Elle. I'm very greedy, so I take up a lot of their time, unfortunately. But Katie would be the first port of call, or Jen, or Charlotte. You know, I think people forget with the juniors.
Sure.
The juniors get a lot of say, actually. They bubble up the ideas. So any of those three.
Brilliant. And just to remind the audience, all of their contact details can be found on Rox Hill Media. So you can get email addresses and things from there. And with beauty, you're saying 3 pillars apply: the new, the now, and the next. This rolls throughout the whole magazine. Do you have any beauty supplements, travel supplements, fashion supplements in the year, or does everything remain in the main book?
It remains in the main book, actually. I mean, I think the reality is, unless you have a big sponsor, the ways of doing supplements, I mean, if you look at all those supplements, they're all sponsored. So unless they are sponsored, so if anybody works for a big tourism board and they want to do something on Britain, I don't know, it's not that I'm against it. It's never been my thing, but it's not that I'm against it. But we would need a sponsor. So really, it stays all in the book, yeah.
Sure. And now, so beauty, we understand. Do you champion British products over international products, or do you just champion anything that's going to be right for the Elle reader?
I tend to champion British a little bit more. Also tend to champion things which are outside London. So with travel, I'm just using travel as an example, but you could do this for beauty, and designers is a good idea. So with travel and designers, me and Avril, who's our fashion director, same as Katie, works over Bazaar, Town and Country, and Elle, although she was at Elle for a long time, so she knows Elle really well. We've been having a lot of conversations about let's go to the rest of the country. My big thing is, as somebody has said on your thing, I'm from Manchester. My other hat that I wear is I'm a social mobility commissioner, so a lot of my role for Elle is actually opening up luxury to the rest of the country. So I've been talking to Avril, you know, we should be doing shoots, but let's do them in Manchester. Let's do them in some of the forgotten areas.
Yeah.
You know, the aesthetic of Elle is it's quite tough, it's quite cool. So we should be going to Oldham's, Bradford's. Of course, with fashion, it's slightly logistically difficult because of expense. But, you know, I've tasked her with, let's find designers who are coming out of fashion schools which are not Central St Martin's, you know, Glasgow School of Art.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Places. In terms of, I'll give travellers another example. Lucy does a one-pager where it's British, it's staycations. But I've really tasked Lucy, who many people know is amazing, with, can we please look at those counties that people don't look at? So I don't want them all in Devon or London. I want you to find the one place in Northamptonshire or Lincolnshire. So for me, it's a very Elle UK. When you look at all the other L's globally, it's quite unique in that you pick it up and you just know it's British, and it's because Britain kind of does run through its veins quite heavily. So yes, personally, I have a bit of a personal soft spot, as did Anne Marie before me, actually, for British, you know, British made products.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm glad to hear that. Tell us the link between print and online. How do they hold hands?
Probably more than you would think, actually. I mean, everybody is integrated on Elle, and we have been for a year. So that means, you know, digital writers like a George Driver, who is my digital beauty writer, she writes long form for print. Charlotte Bitmead, who is technically print, probably does more for digital than she does for print. So it's really blended. I think if you are a PR, though, I mean, it's kind of obvious, to be honest. Picture the person you have the best relationship with. It may end up in print or it may end up online. Another example, which isn't print and digital, but, you know, with Lucy, with her travel, you might send somebody for Elle, but if they're a good writer, they'll probably write it up for Bazaar or for Town and Country. So in that way, there's all these different blended things. I've got digital and print completely blended. So if you pitch for a digital story, it might end up in print.
Okay.
So, for example, somebody might pitch to my digital writer about an amazing weird hotel. The team know that I need that for my print opener. So actually, in a way, try not to think print, digital. Just think it feels it might be digital, but know that it might end up in print, if that makes sense.
That's great, because in a way it's quite nice not to have to make that decision, because you guys know your platforms best, and it's sort of easier to leave it with the masters. Next question, do you have daily team meetings, and also what lead time are you working on? Are you on the March-April issue at the moment?
Yeah, so just starting this week I will have done all of my meetings for April, so I'll know what's going in April. So you're looking at May now. We're actually working slightly more ahead than usual, because we're worried about if there's another lockdown, we can't do any shoots, we can't get any models. So we are working even further ahead, which again goes to, if any PR goes, well, I don't know what's going to be happening in you know, the summer. Take a leap of faith, have a think what it might be. So we're working very far ahead in advance. But, you know, digitally, of course, it's day to day. And actually, digitally, we've kind of done all our Christmas stuff, but we're still doing more. So there's still we have done Christmas, we already have done it, but we can still go in and update and change. And so people, I think, with digital think, oh, it's in the moment. It is, but it's also works about a month, 2 months ahead, because it knows the big things coming. So Valentine's, they'll be thinking about soon.
Brilliant. Good to know.
So yes.
Great stuff. And you meet with your team every day, or?
No, I don't meet with my entire team every day. Some people do. I think Lydia meets with hers every single day. I don't, because I have a big production on a Monday, and I will tell them everything which is going on, from what's going on in the company, so that they know exactly. I tend to slightly overshare with them, but I think it's good. I trust my team. So this week, for example, we talked about the opener in travel, and I said to everybody, look, we're changing it. I want everybody to come up with an idea, every single person. But then I speak with my heads of department, I mean, so many times a day. And there'll be certain people I speak with constantly, my creative director constantly. Creative director he'll probably kill me for saying this. However, Tom Meredith an amazing creative director. I speak to him about 7 or 8 times a day. He is the visual person. He is quite unusual in that he has a very, very good sense of what makes an amazing visual. So just to say, he will go mad with me for saying this, so don't bombard him. But if you do have a visual which is like, oh my God, sometimes worth putting on his radar, because he will go, let's think of the story after. This is an amazing visual for the opening.
That's fascinating. It never works like that.
Never.
That's so nice to hear, because some of our images are amazing, and yet it's the sort of editors who make the decision on it, and actually getting the creators involved is so nice.
That's it. But, you know, he will kill me if he just gets bombarded, but it has to be something like, and you know, I think you have to get them on side, don't you? Go, I love the visuals you do. I loved your thing on the toilets. If you're ever doing anything mad again here, it's just, I just always think it's worth putting it on people's radars as much as you can.
Absolutely. Farah, we've got to attend to some of these questions, but this is all exciting. I love it when people get so involved. Anna Louise grew up in the Northeast, loves that your accent's still there. Good, glad you like that, Anna Louise. Louise, getting my question earlier, I would love a basic guidelines on pitching for Elle Deco. That's not your, I mean, how do you sit in Deco?
We don't actually, no. However, we're completely separate, and you should have Ben Spriggs on if you can. He's a very nice man.
Yeah, he's wonderful.
We are going to be doing more interiors though. There's a whole, I mean, I paid Elle. So we have a whole front of the book section, and the front of the book section when I joined was all about fashion, quite rightly. When I joined, I changed it so that with those 15 pages were not just about fashion, because my take on fashion was fashion is in everything. It's in interiors, it's in tablescapes, it's in hotels. So that loo thing I keep talking about, that sat in the front of the book as a fashion thing, because it is, fashion is I mean, fashion isn't just clothes. Fashion is, you know, what's going on in culture. We want to do more interiors.
Great.
And so if anybody looks after beautiful interiors brands, you can actually get in touch with me. I mean, you know, it'd probably be something. I look after gardening and interiors. We don't do much in it, but it's just something. I think the days of editors, I mean, I do sit on high and do everything, but there are certain things I've always thought, if you can write and you have a specialism, then you should. And I've always been like that as an editor, probably to my detriment. You know, I do it all in my spare time, but, you know, gardening has been a big thing, and actually it's because I'm obsessed with it, but also it's very hip now. It's in all the fashion shows. Absolutely. And interiors are massive. I mean, just today I was saying to the team, we need to be doing something on amazing potters and amazing ceramicists, because all the fashion designers are now bringing out ranges of ceramics. So we should be looking at the independent people of Britain who do amazing ceramics. So it's all, we're kind of everything, actually.
Yeah, brilliant. That's really good to know. Kath K's asked who the best person to pitch me. Now Sue has left. It's Lucy Halfhead. It's just on travel.
Yeah.
2 questions from Christina. How do you go about affiliate partnerships, affiliate links being included with some of the features, and your stance on cannabis and CBD products?
I am okay with cannabis and CBD products. I mean, you'd have to be if you were Elle, if you were about the now and the next. Well, that very much is. And what I try to do, if you're a proper journalist, you obviously just have to load it with all of the proper information. Obviously, we have to remain impartial. With affiliates, well, obviously, you know, the reality is there are some places that as a company we will have very good deals with. Doesn't always make them a preferable partner, actually, but it does mean you keep them front of mind. But actually, is it an amazing product, and do we know they're going to have enough? So, for example, with, I don't know, let's just say we did something on pottery, making that up, but let's just say we did a gallery on, you know, the 10 best pots to buy, the, you know, the mother in your life or whatever. There'd be an awareness. You would have to get in touch and make sure with an independent seller, if this happens, can you fulfill this? So there is that, I think, and that comes down to us working with them and just giving them a heads up. But with affiliate, yes, there are certain partners we know can fulfill. So, you know, if we're suggesting some advent calendar and there's only 5 of them made, it's probably not going to be a gallery. But we're pretty open. I'm not just like, you have to use this brand because we have an amazing deal with them. We do have deals with people, but, you know, Elle, I think Elle, more than many brands, our whole kind of point is to support independent creatives. It's always been that. So we do always have I think somebody asked a question about independence. there is a slight leaning toward independence in Elle, actually.
Great, really good to know. Ellen, best person for Christmas gift guides. You said they were still being added to. Who is the team generally?
It will be the digital team, and I say the digital team. So it's going to be, you would go to Daisy Murray for fashion. You would go to George Driver for beauty, or Charlotte Bittle. She does a lot for digital. You'd go to Katie O'Malley, who is our acting digital director. So Tasha is just gone on mat leave. Katie O'Malley has now stepped up, so she for anything digital, and she's wonderful and very nice and always gets back to people if she can. She's very good at it though. She would be the person to go to.
Really good to know. So Sienna was the one who asked about independent brands, a priority. Yes, they are, Sienna. And is being representative, inclusive when it comes to skin tones, black skin care, etc. important?
Yeah, yes. and it always has, even since my Cosmo days, it's always been, you know, you have to look at the products and go, look. I mean, obviously that is particularly with makeup, but hair is one of the things that me and Katie have talked at length about this, and with Inga, my old beauty director at Cosmo, it's like, if you are covering a hair care brand, please make sure you know that for black hair, you might need something different. So I think there's a whole education piece going on there, but yeah, we have to make sure it's fully representative. And I don't think we've got round to it yet, but they're supposed to be. I will check if it's happened. When we're doing a foundation, we should be saying it goes from, you know, there are 57 shades or whatever. So it has to be. But everything, you know, we've had things where we were about to have, obviously this is confidential, but you know, we were supposed to have like a tanning mitt as a free gift for something, and we had to rethink it because actually I think there's a lot more thought. I think Ellie's very good at it as a brand. We're quite a diverse team, but also I think the people on Elle, they're very clued into it. So yes, you know, is it independent? Is it fully representative? Is socially conscious is always a thing. It's a nice tick for us if it is. And does it look great? Obviously.
Yeah, brilliant. Stacey has asked, with the new in mind, where does Elle stand on emerging women's health products in femtech? Is this something you'll be exploring more of? And if so, who should we reach out to?
I'll be totally honest, it's not something that we have really covered. The only place it would go into, we have a wellness, it's not a wellness section, it's a wellness feature. So I don't think is it in this issue? It might be in the issue which is just out now. We just did a big story on the rise of death parties. So people putting as much money into their funerals and making funerals into a big club night, you know, as you would your 40th. What I'm saying is, the wellness features are quite out there. They're really at the kind of cutting edge of what's happening in the wellness world. We're about to do a feature at the moment about how the whole world is clamoring for your ears now and all these things which are happening. And a good thing, is it not? So that's how we cover health. We do it quite, it's probably the most out there, I think, because I've always thought health can be really boring. So my whole thing is to make health feel really sexy and exciting.
Okay, so your kind of standard yoga story isn't necessarily going to wash, but if it's a crazy, insane thing where you're hanging from a tree, it could be more interesting.
That's it, exactly, yeah.
Okay. Marie, Elle is known for fashion, beauty, travel. What is your advice for pitching in stories about savvy finance stories for a female Elle audience? E.g. the rise in financial abuse, how much should the average 30 to 35-year-old be saving for emergency nest egg? Who should these be pitched to?
Probably not Elle, to be honest. To be completely honest with you, there is a whole bunch of work which comes under the umbrella Financially Fabulous, which is all overseen by the lifestyle brands. For Elle, we don't really, what we're not as a magazine is we're not, rightly or wrongly, but in other magazines I've worked on, we've been very service driven. If you do this, you'll get this, or here's 3 things you should know about finance. Elle kind of isn't that. Elle, remember, is always been about aspiration and fashion and escapism. And we improve the quality of your life because of the brands we tell you to support, the fashion we show you. We're less about, you know, the nitty gritty of finance, because we can't cover everything actually. And the only way we would cover finance is we have a which is probably not what this person is thinking at all, but we have it's a relatively new section online. It's called The Secret Lives of Women. And, you know, it is called Elle, we are about women's lives, but on there are these kind of stories that, so I don't know, we had one story which went viral, which was about a woman saying every time, I mean, it's terrible, every time I look at my daughter, I regret her. Or we would have we had one, but I don't think it came off, which was a woman saying, I'm £100,000 in debt, but nobody knows. My husband doesn't know. So they are exactly. So they're not the finance story this person is talking about, but I'm just trying to explain how we do.
Yeah.
These are the secrets women keep. And they're compulsive because actually they tap into a lot of people going, well, so it's different. So yes, I think for your finance stuff.
That makes sense. Caroline Ferguson, can you give a little advice on pitching talent, brackets actors? What makes someone interesting to Elle?
Yes, before I should just say, I said that was terrible about that woman saying that about her child. Who are we to say? I should say that because I do feel a bit bad about that. I mean,
nobody, it's an unusual story because you don't hear that very much.
So, which is why it went viral. Sorry, talent. Who do we go for? Well, I tend to like celebrities who have a bit of edge, and what I mean.
We send these to you, do we?
No, you send them to Tom Macklin. So Lena de Casperis is my celebrity editor, but she's on mat leave. I have a lot of my team on mat leave, so a lot of people think, oh, is it all restructuring at Elle? Everything's changed. It's not. I have about 10 people about to go on mat leave, so we're not restructuring. We haven't lost anyone, but the names are changing for that reason, just so people know. So celebrity is, there are two people. One is Tom Macklin, who is also over Esquire and Bazaar, but Tom Macklin is at the very, very top end, so he will do covers. There's a lady called Olivia Blair, who is she's our news writer for digital. Olivia looks after celebrities, so all the celebrity videos. So if you have an influencer or you have those kind of mid-tier celebrities, she's the person to go to, actually. And we have some amazing franchises. So we have things like It's a Trend, or we have people talking about their beauty routines. If you look after somebody who is affiliated to a beauty brand, she would be the person to go to with those requests.
Brilliant. Tech, and another question about tech. Tech does appear or doesn't appear, or appears in an Elle style form?
It appears in an Elle style. Well, tech is interesting because actually, you know, nobody actually gets in touch with us about tech, and tech is kind of fashion now. So beautiful tech, totally. I mean, somebody just contacted me the other day about, what was it? These amazing headphones. And I was like, well, actually, they're kind of fashion because they're so beautiful. So tech does have a place. We're probably not right about the, you know, the cutting edge tech. However, if there is tech which falls under wellness, so we were about to do, we may still be doing it in Amsterdam. There's a place where people now go. It's some sort of brain facility where people at the kind of very top of their career who are exhausted, they go there to kind of fine tune their brain. So we do tech, but again, we do it in a quite out there. This is what Silicon Valley are doing. Here's how you should know about it. The other thing to remember with tech is if you do look after a tech product, they could appear in a box out. You know, we do a lot of product. Yeah. So don't think this we're a fashion magazine. I think the thing is with tech, to be on the safe side, does it look great? Is it cool? Then it's probably going to have a place in, you know.
Brilliant. Scope for charities at all in Elle? How have you covered charities in the past, and which sort of charities are they?
We've covered charities in that we have case study stories. So some of those secret lives of women, they've come through charities. Some, you know, some of them will come through charities. So there's a real case study. How else do we work with charities? I mean, I work with, they're not charities so much, but people like the Creative Coalition Foundation, those charities who, they're not charities in the classical sense, but they're not for profit. I like to work with those people. So if we have a big idea coming up, like when we did our big September issue, and we brought in mentees from across the country, young kids who are from the most disadvantaged areas. We worked with the Social Mobility Commission. It was a joint partnership. So I suppose the way I work with charities, we don't do here's a coffee morning, you should join. I'm more interested in bigger ideas because, of course, what charities bring is the expertise that we don't have. So we have a big push next year. on the creative industries. I mean, we haven't told anyone this yet, but our big push, my big push for next year is the creative industries and supporting it. And there's going to be some huge work coming out of Elle on that. So if anybody looks after, again, they're more non-profit than they are charities, but anybody that looks after kind of the creative industries in any way should probably get in touch with us.
Great, brilliant. That sounds fantastic. Molly has asked, who is best to pitch to for jewellery features or to get involved in styling some of your amazing shoots? Is that an option?
Probably not getting involved in the styling, because we have a team. It's a small team, but we do have a team of stylists. Jewellery, well, we did have a kind of jewellery editor who was Molly, some people will know, but she sadly left. She got another job, a very good job. So we were very sad to say goodbye to her. But jewellery really is going to be the whole of the fashion team. You know, I mean, and it all depends, you know, someone like Alex Monroe reached out to me the other day, and so they're also, you could to me, but it would be Avril, it would be Clemmy, it would be Julia, it would be Jack. Jack O'Neill he's our kind of fashion cupboard manager, but he's amazing, and I have a thing at the bottom of my editor's letter page which is on my radar, so it's products that I love. So Jack will do all the call-ins for me. They come from me, they're things that I love, but people can put that on my radar, but you can also put it on Jack's radar. He's probably going to be a talent in the making. He's probably our most junior fashion person, but he's somebody who you can see is really far.
Yeah, great. Liz Summers has asked, who's the best contact for books?
Hannah Nathanson, but she's about to go on mat leave.
No, damn it.
Yes, my whole senior team, it happens, you know, when you employ brilliant women, lose them all at some point, but hopefully they will come back. So Hannah Nathanson is so on it with the books. But we have yet to announce who, so we'll have a replacement for her, so it will be whoever that is. It will be Alice Wignall at the moment, who's my deputy editor, so you can get in touch with her. Get in touch with Becky Bugram. She's the features assistant. She works massively across books. But you know, it depends on the type of books. If it's a... you know, let's say it's a big interiors book, then it's probably Alice, because Alice looks after the whole front of book section, which is where we have travel, we have beauty, we have books. So, but yes, it would be, Becky's probably going to be your best person, or Alice.
Great. Okay, good stuff. Food and drink, how much do you cover that? Or is that, again, sort of in a fashionable style, like a toilet in a restaurant or whatever?
Totally, in a fashion sense. So, you know, we will cover hampers, or we will cover restaurants if it's got an amazing interior done by some amazing architect. Or if there is, I wanted to do, but I never got around to doing it, I wanted to do a big feature on waste food, you know, these very, very high-end restaurants serving waste. Not waste, but you know what I mean. So that, if you're being very classic, you'll go, well, they don't do food and drink. But of course we do. If there's a strong trend, which you see the world is going in that direction, then Elle will probably do a feature on it. So yes, it's not like we do a restaurant review. If we were writing about waste food, we would interview the chef behind, you know, there's a restaurant in, I think it's in Copenhagen. I think it's called 108. It's all waste product. We wouldn't cover it as, here, you should go. But we would kind of get a review because you would be interviewing the chef.
Yeah. Great. I really understand that. Gabby Thomas has asked, would you prefer to receive, what would you prefer to receive for fashion? Folders of cutouts, lifestyles, or a full lookbook?
Asking the wrong person. They will probably want the full lookbook, and then they will get in touch with you for cutouts. And some of the cutouts will not work, so we will shoot them ourselves. But mainly we're not shooting for all the obvious reasons at the moment.
Okay. Dorothy has asked about, are you interested in receiving from a market research point of view? I mean, presumably if it's sort of 30 to 35-year-olds and there's been a big survey done and you found out that something interesting has happened that might be for Elle readers, does that appeal?
We don't tend to do it, actually. We tend to only go, and it's probably my background from women's health, I only tend to go for academic research. I'll only use things which come from the universities, really. Market research, I'm less, I've always personally had a feeling that if you see Dove did this study, I'm not going to write about it, unfortunately, because it just feels, it feels, I know people are very skilled now, consumers understand branding, but for me, it's probably a step too far. So I wouldn't waste your time, actually.
Okay, thank you. Lauren Breeze has asked, are magazines interested in receiving samples, boards/gifts to actually see the products? And second question, what type of event format is easier for a journalist to attend? Breakfast, lunch, or early evening? That's when we're not in lockdown.
When we're not in lockdown?
Yeah.
Well, depends who. I think I would say, but I'm speaking out of turn now, if they're more junior, it's going to be an evening. If it's very hard to say, because actually I'm just thinking all the events that I go to tend to be in the evening, but they'll be dinners. In the middle of the day is not good for anyone. I would never plan one of those, actually. Just don't. Either do it early in the morning before work or do it after work. I think unfortunately, I just don't think you're going to get anyone in the middle of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Louisa Clack has asked, how important is sustainability to your readers?
Very, well, we think it's very. I mean, I kind of think sustainability is just part and parcel of how we consume now. So I don't even think it's an Elle thing. And actually, I did a lot of thinking about, should we have a sustainability editor? What should we be doing? The reality is, when every single member of my team knows, it's a bit like with the independent thing, or what does the brand stand for? If it's a sustainable brand, they're probably going to have more of a chance of being an Elle. And that's just a hygiene check, actually, for the team. Yeah. It's not like, at one point I was thinking we should flag it up going, it's a sustainable brand. Well, it's like, the wonderful thing, particularly about fashion world and beauty, is so many people are getting their acting gear now. It is just a hygiene check.
It sort of goes without saying. Yeah, great. Good to hear. LJ, just your big creative industries push next year. Is that everyone doing that? Would we contact anyone at Elle for that story, or is there someone specific who's coordinating it all?
No, you wouldn't, actually. So there's two things. So one is, because I suppose what I don't want, well, I do want, but I would never be able to have the time to read them all, is everybody just sending me pictures of this woman who makes bread in a, being facetious here, breaks bread in her oven in the back of a Kentish house. That's not going to be right. I suppose what I'm talking about is bigger things. So say, for example, you you do the PR for a big art college in, here's an easier way to put it. My big personal drive, and you have to be careful that I don't get my personal wants and desires fulfilled by Elle, because Elle is not about me. However, we are about the creative industries. What I tend to lean towards is, if you work with an art school and it's not one of the usual suspects, or it's in a different part of the country, it's worth having a bigger conversation, and you could come direct to me. I'm more interested in those bigger conversations about, so let's just make this up. Say you did the PR for certain universities. It would be about a much bigger idea. How could we work together on a much bigger scale? However, we do have a dedicated slot in the magazine, which we installed about 5 months ago, called Spotlight. In front of the book. Sarah McAlpine looks after it. It's usually fashion, but what it is it's shining a light on creative talents across the country. So it's really designers. We've done a lot on designers you haven't heard about, and she'll do an interview with them. We ideally need a picture, because if they have a lovely picture, that's going to help. What I've tasked Sarah with is, brilliant that we have designers in there, but I also want to have hat makers, cobblers, any kind of wonderful creatives who are quite fashiony. So jewelers might be, I keep banging on about ceramics, but it might be a ceramicist that, their ceramics are in Heckfield Place, so therefore they feel quite fashiony. So there is a place for all of that as well. But the bigger ideas, you can come to me, Sarah. Those would be the main people, actually. But, I would have said Hannah would have been a brilliant person, but until we find her replacement, which will be very soon, the features person would be a great person as well. Great.
Good. For fashion pictures, what catches the journalist's attention in the subject line? This is from Carly Robertson. I work with 2 lingerie and jewelry brands, so it would be really helpful to get your take on this. I mean, this is our PR great quest to try and get our emails read, which I suspect your team's really good at it, Farah, but so many teams aren't good at it.
Well, they get so many. It's really hard for me to say with things like that. So if you're a lingerie brand, how do you get somebody's attention? The reality is, whether we like it or not, you get people's attention by, you got to send them the product so they can see it. Unfortunately, but that is the way it is. Or you have to do something surprising that gets their attention. I tell you, I mean, the thing is, it's not a nice thing to say, but you know, PRs know this better than I do. But you know, when I was a junior, if people feed you, it really helps. So the other day, I was invited to. I mean, it is a brand I love. It's Toast. You know, so I like what they stand for. You know, so I would have gone to their press event, virtual press event, regardless. However, they sent everybody a little breakfast thing. And
how lovely.
And it was all done by, I don't know who the company was, but what the company stood for was very in line with what Toast do. And actually, that, unfortunately, that is how you get people's attention. It's not just by sending press releases. Of course, money is a problem, so you can't be sending out everybody a tiny little breakfast thing. But those little things, they do cut through the white noise, unfortunately. And that's all you need to get them in front of you. And from there come the ideas. But yeah, just press releases or just going, now I've got your attention. It doesn't work, actually, really.
No. Katie White hopes you're enjoying The Undoing on Sky. Can you ask what captures your attention in terms of entertainment content to feature?
Entertainment content. Well, for me personally, with entertainment, I tend to like if there's a new writer behind it. So when we're covering entertainment, I often like to look. So in the front of the book, we have a section where we generally cover actresses, but we have covered writers. I'm often quite interested in writers. So if you have The Undoing is probably a bad example because you know it's so big. But if you have an amazing, let's say there's a BBC 6-parter coming out and there's a writer behind it and she's been in the background a bit, but she's got quite an impressive kind of backstory. That's what you should be pitching in a way, is the writer. I'm quite interested in the people behind the scenes. So we're always going to cover the big things. And actually, if you work in entertainment, we are going to look at it, but do think about the talent who is not just the actors. I like the directors. I like talking to the writers. There might be an amazing, if there's something coming up and the fashion is amazing. So Succession is a really good example, and I'm hoping we will do something on the stylist for that film, a big feature on her. I would say that is an entertainment feature, but we've done it prism of the stylist. Who would have thought to do a big interview on the stylist behind it?
Yeah, great, love that.
Interesting angle into entertainment, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. And Emanuela's asked, is there anything that you can talk about that you're most excited to change within Elle in the next year? And we know you're going down the creative independent route, but anything else that's in the offing?
Well, we're going to do a lot more again with So for those that didn't know, so we did this big September issue. We found these 12 students from the most disadvantaged areas. They basically worked on the September issue. They were paid. They became Elle members of staff, and we've committed to them. We're doing a 12-month-long Elle internship with them. They're all on an executive career coaching 3-month session at the moment. But we will do that again next year. We'll probably do it on a much bigger scale. There's going to be a lot more of that kind of opening up the world of Elle and the world of luxury. So I don't know, this is off the top of my head, but you know, I would love to work with brands who are considered luxury, working with us on that, looking at kind of not apprenticeships as such, but how can they open up and work with Elle to be part perhaps of that massive mentoring scheme? Because what's behind the mentoring scheme, it isn't mentoring for the sake of it. It's basically there's a problem with encouraging people to get into the creative industries, mainly media actually. And so that's what kind of I've committed to. So that will happen next year. There'll be a lot of activity around that. You'll start to see the fashion shoots changing a little bit more. You'll start to see our casting changing quite a bit more. Beauty shoots. There's a beauty shoot in this issue now. If anyone hasn't seen it, they should look at it. It's quite amazing. But I'm very keen on bringing, because it's my background, different types of individuals, body shape, because I think fashion has always shied away from that into the pages. Yeah. We're going to be doing more interiors, I hope. It's very expensive to execute, but more interiors. And when I say interiors, if anybody knows anyone, so they'd have to be semi-famous, but who has an amazing place that they think should be shot, they should let us know.
Okay, really good. We've got time for about 3 more questions. Your demographic, can you quickly run us through who the Elle reader is?
I'm in pitch black now, hang on. I think the sun's gone. So the demographic, I don't agree in that she's this age, she lives here, but it's not really my thing, because Elle could be anything from kind of 18 to 80 in my head. What the Elle reader is to me is, I always say they're like a cultural explorer. They're always the person who is the first to know in their social group about what is happening. So they'll always know things which are slightly beneath the radar. That being said, we to give some help, we cluster in the kind of, when I took over print products, as you can imagine, digital skews younger, so it's kind of early 20s. But when I took over Elle, our average age was 23, I think. It's now 34. So it's gone up quite a bit. And that was a very deliberate thing because, you know, print's brilliant if we get younger readers. But for me, the people that are used to holding print and magazines, they are older people, whether you like it or not. But when they're older, you can still have that cutting edge mindset. I always say an Elle person is an original. They're an original in their social group. They think originally about things. They have a very open mind. So that is the Elle reader.
Yeah, lovely. What do you and your team think about follow-up phone calls and follow-up emails if we haven't heard back from one of the guys? Is that a real no-no?
I think so. I think the reality is, unless you have a massive celebrity and it's quite a big thing where you genuinely need to know, and they genuinely, could have missed it, I just don't. I think if they haven't got back to you, they've missed a good story, and it's their fault. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. Right, we might squeeze in 2 more questions if that's okay. And then I think we've answered everyone's questions. When we send items to any members of your team, presumably we're sending them to home, and presumably they'll be okay to give us their home addresses. Is that an invasion of privacy or not?
That's the way it is now. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Final question from Louisa Clack. She works exclusively with small businesses where even small favours would make budgets tight on top of gifting their product as well. How would you recommend we persuade our clients to start spending on this? Hearing it from you and your toast example will certainly help. Also, with COVID and working remotely, desk jobs like this are much harder. How can we stand out perhaps more virtually? That's quite a big question because we've got sort of creative juices flowing.
Totally, and I totally get that. That's why I was very loath to give an example. It is the reality. So if you are a smaller brand, you might not have to give out your product. I'm making it. You could bake a brownie. The other day had brownies and she put flowers into them. I think she was a baker, but some things don't have to cost a lot. What I'm saying is, it's just something which makes you go, oh wow. And that I would hope is pretty cheap to do. Of course you can't expect them to be sending all their product out. Or the toast. Actually, the toast example, for toast, it wouldn't have been anything to them. But I don't think it was very expensive, that. I have to say, I don't think it was. So
it's about thinking creatively and doing something that stands out.
I think so.
Farah, thank you. We've run over because everyone's questions were so brilliant and I wanted to get through them. Thank you all for attending. Please follow us on Instagram, Twitter. I can't remember who we've got coming up next, but someone fabulous. But you have been fabulous, Farah. Thank you. And this has been hugely useful for all of us. And I hope your team aren't inundated with the emails after this.
My poor creative director. It's going to go.
Please, thank you for your time.
You're very welcome.
Okay.